The whistleblower who exposed the illegitimate access of millions of people's Facebook data says it is overwhelmingly likely a foreign country targeted this year's Australian election. Christopher Wylie, who blew the whistle on collapsed consulting firm Cambridge Analytica, also names China as a greater and far more sophisticated threat to Australia than Russia. Australia is not immune to it, he says of the global hacking threat. If people think that because you're a smaller country you're not a target, then that's a dangerous belief to have. Unlike in the United States or the United Kingdom, where Cambridge Analytica worked to influence the 2016 election and Brexit vote respectively, Mr. Wylie says China is the greater online threat to Australia than Russia. There is a very strong interest for China to interfere and mold and change the discourse in Australia, he says, citing our relationships with the US, other countries in the Asia-Pacific region, and China itself, as of interest to the Chinese government. China is far more sophisticated than Russia is with digital propaganda, computational propaganda, because they literally run their country on computational propaganda. Mr. Wylie, who is speaking today at the Antidote Festival at the Sydney Opera House, says Australia ought to collaborate with other countries to regulate social media in the same way we regulate buildings. You would have to go to a regulator and prove to them to a reasonable technical standard that you have thought about potential standards where problems could occur and how you're going to ensure people's safety. Here just. The reason we have strong building codes is not because we want enforcement action after a fire, but because we don't want a fire in the first place. Australia's new laws requiring platforms to pull down extremist videos are a good start, Mr. Wylie says, but only address one symptom of dysfunctional online platforms. He says people working in technology should be professionally licensed in the same way as doctors and lawyers, linking their continued employment to good practice. Ensuring Chinese Australians feel safe and happy and are not subject to racism will also help, Mr. Wylie says. The whistleblower has spent much of the past year talking about how democracies remain vulnerable to online influence campaigns. Cambridge Analytica, the data science company Mr. Wylie worked for, was behind two of the most momentous attempts to impact elections. It harvested user data from 87 million Facebook users and used it to target hyper-specific partisan messages to voters considering whether to leave the European Union or to elect Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. Mr. Wylie, who endured legal threats from Facebook and physical attacks from unknown assailants after speaking out, has now been hired by global fashion retailer H&M as its head of research. He says he still keeps an eye on the political world. You have all kinds of examples of fake Nike adverts, fake coupons created by alt-right organizations and Russian misinformation organizations, specifically to create misinformation around this brand, he says. In one example reported last year, fake Nike coupons circulated in the US, offering steep discounts for black customers, only. It was a ploy to inflame anger against the sporting brand after it ran real advertisements featuring Colin Kaepernick, the football star who was the first to take a knee during the US national anthem, as a protest against racism.